Hi there. Our meditation for this is going to be very simple. To take some slow, steady breaths in and out, releasing stress as we exhale. Now we're going to regulate our breathing by counting to 4 on the in-breath, pausing for 4 before we exhale, counting to 4 as we exhale, pausing for 4 before we inhale. This is called squared breathing. I'm going to do it with you. Inhale for 4. Okay. After doing a few rounds, return to breathing normally. The next thing we want to do, take our left hand and move it over to our right knee and then return it. Take our right hand, move it over to the left knee and return it. And now we're going to count to 20 as we do this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Take a nice deep breath. Exhale completely. And resume normal breathing. We have now synced both sides of our body, both hemispheres of our brain. And as we go into the reading, we set the intention for this or something better, meaning we will not be limited by what we encounter in the reading, that we will only use it for our highest good and the highest good of all. And if there is something better, we wish to line up with that. Okay? And let us begin. There, reflection number 1. I just heard, I looked back out my window and heard the sea is angry. It's not the sea out there, but I kind of feel like I want to show you what it is. Okay? I feel like it's relevant somehow. I thought that was interesting, given we got Atlantis. May or may not be familiar with the story of Atlantis, but there's a story basically that the civilization was flooded due to misuse of power. Let's see what else we have here. I'm using my astrology oracle along with another oracle. So this Atlantis is actually an asteroid, and there's the asteroid number if you do astrology and you want to plug it into your chart. Gratia, so that represents gratitude. Ninth house, higher learning, long distance travel, education, philosophy, religion. Philia, which is friend, love. Isis. Isis is known for her healing abilities. She was really worshipped in certain time periods. All around, just feminine energy, kindness, nurturing, things like that. Also, she had to have been very devoted to Osiris, as she collected all of his pieces when they were strewn about by his brother. Balsamic moon, Damocles. Damocles, the story goes that Damocles was the servant to the king, always wanted to be in the king's throne. One day the king said, "Sure, sit in my throne." Damocles sits there only to look up and realize that there's a sword hanging from one strand of hair. Maybe it's not hair in the story. I don't know if I'm making that up, but that's what came out of my mouth. So the sword is hanging by one strand of hair down on, faced at the throne. So Damocles wanted this thing so badly, but he didn't know the risk of it. And there's something here about that, which actually could also be relevant to the Atlantis story. And we have Echo. Echo in the mythology is about she falls in love with Narcissus, who falls in love with his own reflection. Echo can also signify just this repeating mimic. Mimic is not necessarily a bad thing on its own. It's just that that's how humans work. So it's good to be aware of the fact that we get programmed with mimic. And if you understand that, you can look at where you're programmed from to make adjustments where needed. We've got Patientia, which is representing patience. Concordia, which is representing friendship. Hopi, which is an asteroid representing the Hopi tribe, and they have set forth the rainbow prophecy about how when the earth is ravaged and things seem lost, that there's a tribe of people that come forth to rebuild. And, these, of course, are ancient souls. These are souls that have devoted themselves to earth, to humanity. They come with love. They've already made a lot of the mistakes, they've already played all those scenarios out, and then they've come here with a higher consciousness while being attached to their hearts to teach these ways. Anubis, their heart's way is light as a feather. And Sophia, they carry great wisdom. So I get the sense that this reading is about you being part of that tribe, whether you identify with that in particular, or maybe you don't identify with labels anymore, but maybe you have been associated or affiliated as a star seed, or embodying Christ consciousness, or just very in touch with your heart, open-hearted. We have accepted. It's just fear. Creation. Town. Stuck. Withdraw. And which is an interesting thing to come out there. Let's see. Though you have this high calling and this experience of being on earth in many, many incarnations with many experiences, sort of the old soul effect, there is I want to call it a fear virus in particular that you are working on and through. I want to say not just for yourself, but for humanity. Place where you have identified a humanity being stuck. I just heard it's about the judgments that we've placed on. You may be working on this within a certain region, right? Like you are just taking a section of it, so to speak. So first you are having to accept, maybe you've lived out and having to accept some of the patterns that have been living out around fear patterns, definitions, things that have been tied to it that it doesn't actually mean. So there's some way that you're looking to alchemize this and bring it up into the higher realm, meaning anything that's fear-based, you build the bridge, the rainbow bridge, of a higher way of operating in, with, and through that energy, through your higher understanding. So in order to do this, you may have had to awaken to a certain part of you that you were operating in unconsciously. And as you became conscious of it, you were required to do the alchemy work on it. And that may have been a process for you. You may still be in the process. I think you've understood that that's what you're doing. That you may have come to a point where you feel stuck, or there may have been points where you did feel stuck, where you've been required to withdraw from the process and perhaps meditate to get a higher understanding. What your soul wants to impart in the way of wisdom on this topic is the unknown risks. Have likely experienced a lot of the detriment of the pattern. You have experienced maybe obsessiveness, addiction, manipulation, coercion, maybe disease, entanglement, numbing out, even impotence. A lot of the detriment that goes along with the pattern is being used in the way that you're tackling it, or the way that you experienced it, is what you are bringing to the attention of others. Like Damocles, he didn't know until he was in it what the risk was. And it's like, you've been in it, so you know what the risks are. You are planning to impart this wisdom to your brothers and sisters. which I feel like it's a weird thing to say, considering we're talking about, but also like the mythology of Isis and Osiris is that they are siblings, you know? I don't know if it's relevant, but it's the question I heard. What will happen when they do this? I got Smoker Midnight Toker. We got Great Idea, Inspired Exchange, Paying Bills, Kingdom. Great Idea is standing out. You'll meditate on it. After you do this, have these experiences and realize what the detriments are. Maybe you're going to kind of chill out, integrate, be inspired to a great idea about how to exchange these energies in a healthier, higher way. Maybe including criteria that should be considered, you know, but when I said that, I heard, you know, it's like this, it's like, yeah, impart the wisdom and knowledge about the fact that it's more an inside job. It's more of a feel into it for yourself kind of thing. Got spear, ready, knight, shields, stand, and protection. Okay. Mystery, hiding, read a book, secrets, discovered, detective. Alchemize, healer, transmute, and empath. Even write a book, but there's some mystery that you've tapped into or that you're able to tap into. And you are going to teach people. I just heard you will be known as a great healer. A whole segment of our population will be helped by what your contribution is, what you create based on what you've experienced and what you've learned and how you frame it for them. Like you mixed this lower density way of being with this very high mind that you have. And I just heard it's going to be like a miracle. I saw a clip of Robert Grant Miller stating that a miracle is just extreme synchronization. And it's going to be like that. Like you bring in all the key elements of a thing so that when you present it, it just clicks in like the missing puzzle piece for others, you know, so that they can really integrate it with ease. We've got spring, sun, and affirmations. So these things may be significant. I mean, you may be inspired to this because of how you know you want to be an example for or provide a wisdom to your son or all the sons, you know. And springtime may be relevant as far as like that's when you birth this new thing. Affirmations. Interesting. What you say matters. What you say matters. I mean, I feel like I would try to tell you what you're going to be doing, but I don't think that's my thing. Like, I don't think I know, you know? Like, I think you might not even know yet, and you might, but like you're meant to know. We got holiday. The answers you're looking for can be found during a vacation, retreat, or holiday getaway. Okay, that's why we had the card that you were going to go through all this stuff, and then we had Smoker Midnight Toker. And I said you're going to relax a bit, and then you're going to get the great idea. So holiday, it's like, yeah, like you've been through a hard thing. You're coming out of it. You're going to kind of sit back and let things process, but you're not necessarily going to focus in on it, trying to figure out the great idea. The great idea comes when you're kind of in a meditation, digesting what you've been through and all what you've learned. What do you know now that you wouldn't have otherwise known? You know, these kind of things are going to be in your meditation. So this reflection is to reassure you that you are here for a reason. It's sort of a grand reason. You are inspired to it from your soul level, and it is, you know, something you're passionate about, right? And you know, what comes to mind is a clip I saw, I think it was on Instagram, and it was like a man, he was saying, okay, so brace yourself. I might be coming into a topic that makes you uncomfortable, or if you're uncomfortable around the topic of it. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that word, but I am just saying, like, this clip was a man. I'm going to have to edit myself saying those words. I think I've said it a few times, darn it. Anyway, the man was saying that if men were to understand that the average PORN star doesn't give a very good BJ, that aggressiveness that they can see is just meant for visual, and that actually doesn't feel that good. And I just giggled because, you know, I have never been on the receiving end, but I have been on the other side, and I have understood that too. That, you know, it's about a felt thing. Well, the feelings can be enhanced and heightened by when you put certain other ingredients in the thing. You know, that it's not just like this crazy, wild, aggressive act, you know? And I don't know, that just came, and it's like maybe there's some stuff in there, like, that you've come across, that you understand, you know, that, like, I don't know exactly what this is, but it seems like it's going to be a lot bigger than just how to get good pleasure out of it, you know? Like, I feel like maybe that's a part of it, but I feel like there's some truth that you are going to share in such a way that can be so easily digested, and that it catches on and people understand, and it changes and revolutionizes the way it's done and how people think about it. I just felt like, woo! Leave it at that, because I just feel like there's nothing more that I personally have to contribute that could enhance this for you. But I think you got this covered, and I think this is really a reading about a recognition of this for you. If you've ever thought, you know, that you were here for a reason, if you've known that you are, this is a recognition from outside of you, you know, a message from spirit, like, yeah, we see you, you're on track, you got this. Whatever stage you're at in that process that we uncovered is going on. Doing it. You're doing it. You've been doing it. All right. I kind of wanted to just say enjoy. All right, reflection 1. That is your reading. My reflection too. Your messages started to come while I'm still pulling oracles, so I thought I would just start talking. And so far I've got something to do with career, 10th house, or your reputation. And what did I just hear? It feels like it's been an uphill battle. But you recently got a message about something that you could change. And that thing had been cutting you off from victory. Maybe even fame. Interesting. Thrown in here, we got Frigg. Frigg is the wife of Odin. Yeah. So, it's okay. So I feel like it could have rocked your confidence, the way that something wasn't working the way that you felt like it was going to be working. Like this uphill battle was like dang. But I want to say that this says it was all part of it. That you might have started getting peeps of glimpses of successes, but it's asking you to look at how that struggle serves you. How did it serve you? And it could have been serving one of your shadows, right? Was it like, I'm not really prepared to be seen in this light, so let me make sure there's some sabotage in my recipe? Which, maybe you weren't ever aware of it like that. I'm just as an example of what a shadow could be, It's like, this will require me to have more responsibility, so I'm not sure that I really want to do this successfully, And then maybe kind of doing it halfway. I'm reminded of a clip I saw of Aaron Doughty talking about money, and he was talking to one of his attendees to his seminar, and uncovered in her childhood that she had parents who got really stressed out after they became financially abundant. And so she was associating abundance with stress. That can be a hidden way where you hold yourself back from abundance because you don't want the added stress, things like that. Whatever it may be for you, I think it's unique for each person that this applies to. So you got to ask yourself, ask and you shall receive. So if you don't have the answer, something in your environment will reflect it back to you so that you can see it more clearly in yourself. But we've got confident, respected. Projector. So you're an advisor. You're an advisor to others. And this is too specific to be coming in, but maybe you even held yourself off from relationship. Let me dig a little more about that. Why is Frigg here? Maybe you didn't want to have yourself seen as a wife, or you wanted to be seen as a wife. Why is Frigg here? Stuck in development. The way that you thought about your reputation might have been a bit immature. So it's like maybe you wanted to succeed in this career, but the reason was tainted because maybe you were trying to prove something to someone. So you can see how that's like a very egoic reason to want to succeed in your career. It's like, actually, you probably want to succeed in your career because you're passionate about it and it adds value to other people's lives. Isn't that the real reason? And maybe, your ego was kind of caught up in it and you were thinking, oh, this will show everybody, you know? Or, oh, maybe I want to have a relationship with this person because of the way I'll be seen. I'll be respected if I have this person's approval, if this person's on my arm, you know? It's like going for the relationship because you want it to improve your reputation. Yeah. And it's, you know, again, this experience was somehow serving you. But you've gotten the message about how it's not serving you anymore. Some truth has come to light to show you that this is no longer something you can believe. You can no longer believe that by being in relationship with that person that your reputation is enhanced. You're actually realizing that you've been cut off from something that was more real, or a more real reason why you do get respected, you do get recognized and famous. It's like you don't need that person and their reputation on your arm to be recognized, because you have that within yourself. That's why you wanted it. You had a desire because you recognized as a soul that that was something meant for you. Well, you didn't realize that it was meant for you from a more pure place, from your soul's desire, not from your ego's desire. Your ego was trying to get it fulfilled in the way that it saw it could, by attaching yourself to another being that you felt had the reputation you wanted, who you felt was confident and respected, and who could, you know, serve your purpose. And it didn't work out. And maybe this person was that on the surface, but below the surface, a lot of war. There was something that just did not fit. It's probably hard to see until you got up close. Definitely cut you off from something that is a pure version of that desire. And your health has probably been affected as well, it says. You've experienced lies and you've accepted them, being in this situation. You lied to yourself. It's like, think about a teenager who wants to date the most popular person in school. It was like that, kind of. It's like just an immature part of you who has no better information to go on, you know? If you had a lack of self-worth, then how else did you think you were going to achieve this recognition that you know is yours? Got that part right. It is yours. It's just that that's not how you get it. You're going to come by it in a much more truthful, honest way that has to do with your own confidence and your own sense of respect. And that has to come through yourself first. You respect yourself first. So are you making decisions that you respect in yourself? I just saw delayed, environment, rejected. So maybe you've been rejected by this person who you thought was filling that role now, or maybe you're needing to reject that path that you were on. You may have rejected the path that would have led you down to that pure, I heard, awakening of your divine nature. You rejected that path. You went for the shortcut, the easy way. But it was never the easy way. It was just an illusion, because it was made on a misunderstanding about how life works. That's all. I mean, it seemed like it worked that way, right? If we look at Hollywood and things like that, people seem to get status by being with certain people and all that. But we can see that crumbling very easily now. You probably couldn't before. Probably couldn't see that crumbling before. And now it is crumbling. But this isn't going to take long to go through this change. We got 1 week, we got change of plans, and we got detoxify. So like, look at the things that led you into this space. Look at the patterns within self. What were the ingredients that went into this plan that you had, and this desire, this plan you had to make that desire come true? And was there low self-esteem in there? Was there fear? Fear of not ever getting the recognition. Fear of not being able to cut it. Was there just a lie you told yourself about your own value? Was there a lie you told yourself about how much you needed other people to see you in a certain way? Was there a lie you told yourself about the level of that stuff that the other person has? It's like, in a way, you projected your own virtuous qualities onto this other person. Because you had a lower self-esteem and low self-worth, you didn't own it for yourself that you were the one that was worthy of fame, worthy of respect, worthy of the confidence and the recognition in a very real, public way. You were the one with the gift for words and gab and understanding and high intellect. You are the one who will help the community with that. The one with the heart that, without all those false beliefs, is as light as a feather. Yeah. So on this new timeline, tell us about this new timeline. Learn to trust yourself and detect deception in yourself and other. Because once you get in line with that feeling of truth, you know what it feels like, you know? And when you know what it feels like, you know when it feels off. Because you're listening to your feelings. You're all of a sudden now valuing yourself. And you're more confident because you've spent the time to look at all the ingredients that went into the path that didn't work out for you. And once you've addressed all those things, you're much more clear and much more respecting of yourself because you've taken the time to do so. You've earned your own trust back. And now you can start to trust yourself because you can sense when there's deception within your own self or another. Anywhere that you've been envious, that falls away because you realize it's no longer true that they have something that you want. It's more true that they have something that you are inspired to achieve too, in your own way. And this might be new to you. We got new moon, so dealing with all these. Okay, we got cut off there, which is unfortunate. But we're going to take it as divine orchestration, okay? Basically what I was saying when we got cut off was that this might be new for you. We got new moon. Moon can be emotions. Moon can be the feminine energy. It's chaos energy. You know, things are undefined there, like emotions. And so it was a recognition that the process of, you know, self-inquiry into why you found yourself on this path is the thing that you're doing, but it also is recognizing that it could be very new for you. And also I think it wants to reassure you to be, and remind you to rest and be gentle with yourself, and that, you know, nothing's gone wrong. You're on a soul's journey in a human body, and it's not an easy one. And when we grow up, sometimes we're sold on this fairy tale idea of what life should be, and then we come to find out that it's actually not why we're here. It's not about that, but having had that was an operating system that we used to get to where we are now. So it was still useful and it did serve a purpose for us. So it's not like about leaving the part of us behind that, participated in all these ways and things and ways of making decisions and coping and distracting. It's about integrating and understanding each thing that we experienced and taking the gold pieces out of it so that when we go forward, we're going forward with the wisdom we gained from each of those experiences, not with a disdain or hate for ourselves or the lives we've lived or the experiences we had. We're actually, once you get to the other side of kind of integrating and healing these things, you don't carry the burden of them anymore. It's not like, I'm not worth it because I've done this and I've made this decision and I've wasted this amount of time. It's nothing like that on the other side of the integration of your experiences and the full acceptance of where you've been, where you're at, and the presence with whatever you felt that makes the space for you to realize that you actually, got something out of that situation that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So there's a way of navigating this that doesn't conform to typical society standards and what you may have been taught to expect and what all the people around you might even be living by and expecting. And when you are surrounded with people who are expecting of you and you're making changes that don't go along with what they've been living or expecting of you, yes, it stands to reason that you may lose people. And so I think this wants to recognize that too. Like the people around you have been probably supporting you on the path that you've now found doesn't serve you and your highest good any longer. So sometimes we grow apart from people, and it doesn't mean that we judge them or think they're bad or wrong. It just means that we have a higher calling at this time for ourselves. So we have to move to a higher calling within ourselves, and sometimes the people around us can hang with that, and sometimes they can't. This is not what I was saying in the first version of this reading, so this must be more appropriate for what was needed here. Is there anything else that's really love life? What's that card say? I just looked at the big words on it and I didn't read the actual message, but I think it says your love life is ascending to a higher level. Let's see. The basis of your question involves your romantic life, which is now changing for the better. Yeah, I guess it wants to reassure you this change is for the better. And it says practice, practice, practice. Because you are going into unknown territory, we got winter. So this is relevant to now, if you're in the winter months like I am. So because this is new for you, it's like go into it with that beginner mind, like I'm learning something here, and it's okay if I'm learning by trial and error. But to keep asserting yourself as you sort of like exercise your way into being practiced at it and it becoming second nature. The same way, think of anything you do on a repetitive basis that you don't really have to think about doing anymore. The way that you got to be that way, whether it be driving, brushing your teeth, a repetitive job or thing that you do, maybe you crochet, whatever, the way that you got to that state where you don't have to pay attention and you can still do it is that you practiced, right? So this is just saying, like, you're just at a stage here where you're going to practice something new, which will be your way of being and which will serve you on the path that you actually are continuing on at this stage, which is a higher timeline. The Romance Angels deck, I'll just cut it and see. Past life relationship. You have known each other before. So you may have some other things to play out with another person that you've lived other lifetimes with and that you might be in separation with at this time. You may have even felt like the path that you did choose with someone was a past life connection, and it may well have been, but it is also, because we got separation after that, recognizing that now you are separating. You attract romantic love by enjoying the moment fully. Let go of control issues. Yeah. See, you have an idea of how things should be, how they should be carried out, and what things should look like, and how you should go about that. And this is a higher calling, so this is asking you to step into divine will and to let God in a way, let universe, source, your heart be in the picture of what decisions you make. Because on that path, you're not going to encounter a relationship that allows you to stay in lower density patterns of war and lack. You're going to be in a relationship that calls you up to your highest version and allows you the space to do that and grow within it. And I was reminded today of a situation where the universe lined me up with encountering a new person, because the reflection I got of myself in the experience I had with the new person, which was just a meeting in passing, but the reflection I got of myself from that interaction was really important for me to see about myself. So bear in mind that you're going to line up with people now that help you see the parts of yourself that you do want to grow and learn through and from. And that these people, if they're meant to stay in your life, and if it's not just a passing thing, and they're meant to stay in your life, that you will be granted the grace and the room to do the work that you're doing on yourself, to line yourself up to that path of that high reputation that you know is within you, that you know fits who you are. I kind of want to stop the reading there, so I am going to. I think that's enough. I think what this reading reflects to you is that you're on a path. It's true, you're meant for something great. And it's the right thing for you. And this has all been part of figuring that out. And you're going to continue on, maybe not, and having to practice a new way of being, which is not exactly knowing, and letting yourself be guided more by your intuition, by signs, synchronicities, you know? And when I'm saying that to you, it's with the knowing that you have that ability. So if you don't know you have that ability, then that is something you're about to discover about yourself as well. That you can trust your intuition, and when you listen to your heart, it's actually guiding you, and you can trust it. The way that I learned to trust mine was some trial and error. Yes, I did go against sometimes what my intuition was telling me, only to find out, oh, I see why my intuition was telling me that. You know, it's like it takes what it takes for you to get in line and in resonance with who you really are. And these are the experiences that it's been taking you, and you're going to continue to have them. And all the experiences are there to help support you in becoming in resonance with that higher version of yourself, that highest version of yourself, that has a plan. And it's just like your ego doesn't know what that plan is, because your ego is literally comprised of mechanisms and understandings that are designed to keep you safe, which sometimes involves avoiding certain situations and avoiding certain situations that would cause you to feel certain things. That's what your ego is doing. So if you're living a life based on avoiding certain situations and avoiding feeling certain situations, but your soul's calling is saying, we have to go into those situations now. It's time to go into those situations that you've been avoiding. Through is the way. On the other side is freedom. You know, it's like that. It's like your ego you're going to want to get your ego on board with the higher calling so that your ego is not fighting you the whole way, distracting you the whole way, you know. But when you have a feeling coming up that you know the ego was trying to make you avoid, just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean that it was the wrong move or the wrong way to go. If you've been avoiding feeling these things, they're going to start to come up, and it's for you to be present with the feelings. So I've talked about this formula many times in a lot of my other earlier readings, but for the sake of this reading, I'm going to repeat the formula. And if you need some more practice with the formula, feel free to use your intuition and decide for another video on my channel that you want to watch that will be helpful to you. But basically, you acknowledge, like, okay, I acknowledge I always do this thing to avoid that. And you validate why. Okay, here's why, because I'm scared of that. I don't know what's going to be involved with that. I think that's going to be a hassle. Okay, seems valid that you would want to distract from it. But it also accept here you are in a position of needing to go towards something that you've been distracting from or avoiding. Except here I am at this place where, you know, I need to go in the direction that I've been avoiding. And how does it feel? If you feel scared or intimidated, those are the feelings that you're going to want to be present with. And this simple formula, you know, as you're present with the feelings and you don't push them away, try to blame anyone else, you don't wish it was different, you just let yourself be with the feeling, meaning not thinking about the past or the future. Just being with the feeling, letting the feeling be with you. You become the version of yourself that can handle and process that feeling. So as you move forward, that feeling isn't going to hinder you, and you won't have your ego in the way trying to distract you from ever having to potentially feel that. So you won't be avoiding certain situations that you might actually end up in for your soul's calling. So instead of kind of having this inner war of the ego trying to protect you and the soul trying to grow you, you know, you get these on board with working with you and the knowing that you can handle this and that you are worth it and you have what it takes, and it's one step at a time, and it's enjoy yourself along the way. Okay. So what a wonderful thing to know that you're jumping up to a higher timeline now, because I'm sure that you'll enjoy it very much when you're on it, and it will feel like all the work that you do to get there was well worthwhile. That completes your reading. High reflection number 3. Here's your reading. We got 11th house, which is communities and groups. Water, surrender, control. Water can signify the emotional realm, feelings. Thetis, which is the shapeshifter. Chiron, the wounded healer. Justitia, which is an asteroid signifying justice. Damocles. The story of Damocles is that he was the king's servant and he wanted to be in the king's throne so badly. And I don't know if that was correct grammar. Sorry if it wasn't. And that bothers you. I just had that feeling that it did bother someone, so that's probably why I did it. Sorry about that. Anyway, Damocles was given permission to sit in the throne by the king. And as he did, he took the moment and sat into the throne and then looked up to find that there was a sword pointed down at him, ready to fall, but it was held by one strand of hair. And so Damocles, this thing that he wanted all this time, that he longed for, that he was jealous of the king for, he comes to realize that he never knew the risk of it. He didn't know that the king sat there every day with the pressure of a sword about to impale him. And so that is here. That energy is here. Ara, which is war. Sixth house. This is day-to-day living. Work, home, children, play. We got Zeus. Zeus, he's been described as like the king of the gods, or, there are different ways to describe Zeus, but obviously very powerful being, obviously had some of the, shadows of what it must be to be in such power. So if we look at Damocles, wanting the power of the king, and then like the fact that I was just drawn to talking about Zeus, and how Zeus has some shadows that come along with being so powerful. So there's something here like this. Let me lay out the rest that I've got. I've got Atlantis, and then I've got Ariadne. Atlantis was the civilization that is said to have gotten out of control with power struggles, and abuse of power. And so the civilization was flooded, it's said. And then Ariadne is a story about, I think, a princess who rescued someone from the labyrinth and fell in love with him. And then he was nursed to wellness by her. But once he was well, after she had invested all of her love and care, he left. And the story was that she, was resentful or sad about that, So it's a version of unrequited love, but it's also a version of giving with expectations. Okay. Let me look at some of these other oracles. Those are the astrology oracles. Let's look at what else. We've got dietary change, flower power, and be yourself. Special time with flowers and flower essences to increase your personal healing power. So there's a lot about nature here, because even at Atlantis, what the abuses of power were something to do with the elements and nature. And perhaps there's something about making amends with the elements. Dietary change. Improve your diet, and your life will also improve. What are you ingesting that you may not, maybe shouldn't? Are you drinking enough water? This situation calls for you to be your authentic self, which is the basis of your personal power. So say Zeus wanted to hide away and pretend that he wasn't the powerful being that he was, because he didn't want people to know that he had that darker side, right? Zeus wasn't like that. He owned the darker side of himself, and I'm not saying that he never learned and grew, and I think that the stories include information about Zeus actually finding the wisdom of his wives very helpful in growing him at times. So Zeus did grow with the help of his wives, which he later left, just like Ariadne was left. And at least one of the wives was always at war with the consorts of Zeus, meaning whoever Zeus went to, this particular wife, Hera, would start a war and usually harm or curse the other party that Zeus had relations with. So it's like, and these sometimes humans and sometimes goddesses, in the beginning, before they understood the reputation of Hera, they may not have even known the risk that was involved with being intimate with Zeus, who was, by the way, also a shapeshifter, because there's a story of him seducing Leda. Was it Leda? I might be mixing up mythologies, so there could be stories that get mixed up here that cause misunderstandings in your situation. But there's at least one story where Zeus changes into a bird or something and then changes back. I think that might have even been how he got with Hera, that he actually had intercourse with her and then she had to marry him to make it, I don't know, to make herself more, I don't know what the reasoning was for them to require marriage after that kind of act, but there's something like that in the story. But Thetis is the shapeshifter, so there's shapeshifter energy here. And it was like Zeus used that to get what he wanted. Okay, I'm going to look at these. Healing. Manifester. What you speak matters. Intercepted. Nourishment. Nourishment coming up when we already got dietary change. So what you are ingesting really is coming into play here. Non-attachment. Past life karma. Ritual. Companion. Lies. It's just fear. Unreasonable. Thankful. Worry. Perception. And decide. I know what this is. Okay. You know how Zeus shapeshifted in order to get what he wanted, right? So maybe he studied to see what certain women wanted, and then that's what he became. This is encouraging you to be yourself. And maybe there's a situation with relating in general with significant others or with a specific significant other. And it could be even coworkers. It could be all members of community that you're involved in. This could be the relating dynamic between all of you or just between you and some of the others. But there is a recognition that it's like a hot and cold energy. It's like 1 minute you're important to me and I value you, and the next minute somebody else is or something else is, and I could act like you don't even exist. It's like I am only valuing you when you're giving something to me. For a moment. Okay. Distraction, totally lost my train that I was on. So let's see if we can get back on. So within a community dynamics, there's some sort of, using people in a way, but it's not like blatant, and it's built into the relating dynamic, and it's very well hidden and masked. But you may know that you don't really talk to people unless you need them in that moment, or people might be doing that to you. Like, oh, you only call when you need something kind of thing, And, okay, this is talking about that. I wanted to say, you don't know the risk of that. Because you might think, whatever, I know it's that way, so even if they call me just when they need something, it's not really affecting me. But you don't know the risk of that, okay? So if you are relating with people who are doing that, look at the people who are not doing that that would stay away from you simply because you look like you do that, because you're around people who do that, and that you seem happy with people who do that. So people who can see those patterns, which are dysfunctional relating patterns, which are common, amongst people who have grown up in families with alcoholism or cluster B personality disorders, or just, working family homes, or a lot of children in the home, or divorce. Some of these relating dynamics can be really unhealthy. And you might know that you're participating in a way of relating that's not that reliable or fulfilling, or I wanted to say classy, but I'm not sure what relevance that has. But it may have some, because it may mean that it's just not up to your standard or what you think would be ideal, what you know the potential could be, or what you wish for. And you may not realize that the risk of actually staying in those relationship dynamics with those people is that you're completely surrounded with that, and you've taken up all the space for anyone that would be more healthy. Meaning anyone who's more healthy has probably either healed that pattern or feels something off in that pattern and doesn't want to be near that pattern. So you've cut yourself off from any chance of being in a healthy relationship or relating dynamic with any friends or groups. Cut yourself off from being in relationship with people that would nourish you back, that would be equal give and receive, instead of give and take. This would be, to recognize this is to give justice to yourself and to them. If they don't have an example of another way, maybe they never make the choice. If you don't have an example of another way, maybe you never make the choice. So on the one hand, it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't have any room for anyone else who does it a different way to come in, then how are you going to get the example? Well, you look outside of you. You look outside of your circle. You finally feel fed up. You finally think, well, what can I do to change this? What's missing? Or you come across somebody that is desirable but that has rejected you, and you wonder why. And you start looking at yourself and reflecting. And maybe what you'll find is it's the fact that you have surrounded yourself or indulged in a way of relating that is beneath what the highest potential is, which would require somebody to step down into trenches, so to speak, where they don't want to be in, maybe. And I saw this clip the other day about this spiritual teacher sharing that he only wants people in his life who want to grow and learn. And I could relate to that. But also the way he stated it was basically, if you only ever surround yourself with people who are angry, suffering, in lack, in victim, blaming other people, shaming other people, judging other people, angry, fearful, then you absorb their energy. You will, especially if you're in a group of people like that, you're inundated. And that might be the reason why someone who doesn't want to be in that dynamic doesn't come into that dynamic, because they don't want to be inundated either. They don't want to be pulled down. When you get to a certain level of consciousness, it feels better, and you can feel the difference of that lower vibrational energy. You really can feel it. I remember, I don't usually get affected by other people's vibe if I'm just in passing. I could give a hug to somebody who's in a lower vibration and not be affected. But this one time, someone gave me a hug from the back. It was my birthday, and they just came up and hugged me from the back. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't see them. Whatever happened there, my usual defense wasn't up. And I felt the density of their energy, like on my back. Like it felt like a heavy, heavy brick, like a brick wall fell on me. It was noticeable and not long lasting. And because I understand energy and how to move energy, I quickly moved through it and away from it. But imagine if I'm standing around people who are all of that lower dense vibration, and they're all trying to, want something from me, or, only interact with me when they want something from me. Now I'm starting to get weighed down from all different angles, and now there's no retreat from it, like, because I've completely surrounded myself with people like that. And there's no one on my level that can actually have a conscious conversation with me where I actually get enriched, because they're all looking to me to like pull themselves up, to get a leg up. So I'm constantly being pulled down. Wow. So maybe you've felt like you've been, handling this just fine, but you just don't know the risk of doing that. And it's kind of saying, it says surrender control. Like, you're not in control here. You think you are, but all you're doing is enabling yourself, keeping yourself afloat in a poisonous lake. We've got opportunities for healing here, because now you see what doesn't work, you see what doesn't feel good. And you can see what you've been choosing. Like, by choosing this, you're taking up all the space for anything else to enter. The way to actually deal with people who are in the lower vibration is with non-attachment. Don't need anything from them, but also, like, you're only giving from your overflow. You're not thinking lesser of them. You're, respecting that they're in their journey, and you're also respectful of you, and you're in your journey. So where are you in your journey? If you can already see that that's something that you don't want to relate to, then see it and make the decision accordingly. Is it self-loving to continue in a pattern with somebody where you constantly feel dragged down and you already know you shouldn't continue it? What are the things that are keeping you continuing to do it? Being like, have you made it mean you're a good person if you continue to do it? Are you a bad person if you choose to grow and learn and create something different? Oh, I just heard this is an ancestral pattern. This is your ancestry is behind you, wanting, waiting, supporting, excited for the fact that you are about to break this pattern. It's like a fitting in. You don't fit in. I just heard they all know it. They all know it, and they probably don't want you to know it. Well, some of them. We've got ritual. It's just a habit at this point. So make some new habits, make some new companions, right? Don't lie to yourself about where you're at. It's, if you think like, oh, I can just change this pattern and I don't have to do anything else. If you think you're just going to use your will to change some of these patterns, that's kind of a glossing over bypass, because actually there's a whole program within you that came from your ancestry that they all know about, that they lived out too, that they're waiting for you to break. So they're expecting you to find out within yourself what caused you to be in those positions, what caused you to live those patterns out, so that when you acknowledge, validate why you've been doing it, accept that there you are with that pattern that needs to be alchemized now. And then you can be present with the feeling that initially lodged the pattern within you, which would have originated in your childhood because it's passed down through your family. And we talked about that, where certain families have these certain relating dynamics passed down. So anything that's telling you you can't do it or you shouldn't do it, it's just fear. Fear is a lie in itself. What is the acronym? False evidence appearing real. Fear, If you're not being alerted to some immediate danger for your life, then it's just not real. Unreasonable. Yeah, you probably are, as you clean up the patterns within yourself that was allowing yourself to live this way with others and relate this way to others. You will see people more and more as being unreasonable. Like, it's unreasonable to expect that of me. It's not appropriate for you to think that I am your rescuer or I am the one that you should call whenever this happens, just because I know how to do it. It's like, maybe if they keep having that problem, they should learn how to do it too, you know? I'm thinking of this other saying about, like, give a man a fish and you feed him a meal, teach a man to fish and you, I don't know, like, feed him for life or whatever the saying is. I'm not exactly sure, but you get the gist. It's like, be an example. You can't actually teach somebody who's not actually asking you to teach them. They're asking you to be the solution, to give to them in some way. And you are needing to put limits and agreements around what you agree to give and what they agree to give. Have the conversation, and that will tell you a lot about whether or not this is a relationship that you want to be in and if it's healthy or not. Because a lot of them won't be coming with the question of how can I do this for myself. Some of them will, and some of them won't. And you cannot impart the wisdom on the ones that are not wanting to hear it, because some of the ways that they'll be relating is through the drama triangle, meaning they'll be putting you in one of the roles of victim, savior, or persecutor. Likely you'll be the savior, and they're the victim. And so if you try to step out of that role, they're going to turn into the persecutor real quick. You'll see it happen. Okay, so, look for the things that you can be grateful. What do you know that you wouldn't have otherwise known? Because I think one thing is that since you've related this way too, that they're not bad people, that they're not intentionally harmful. The pattern is harmful, not the people. The people are worthy of love, are loved by God just like you, and you can see that. You can see that they're not lesser people. It's just a pattern that is uncomfortable and harmful and keeps people trapped and could keep people trapped always if they continue to participate in it without the example of something else. So you get to decide how you're going to handle this, how you're going to think about this. And it's bringing up worry. And part of it is that you may feel something like, well, you worry about what will happen if you're not the one to save them, to step in, to be there when they need it. You worry about what will happen to them. And this is kind of saying, like, remember, worry is a prayer for something you don't want. And we got manifester here. Remember I said it matters what you say. If you say a prayer for something you don't want, because you're worried that they won't make it, that they won't be able to handle it themselves, that they won't find another solution, that's what you manifest. So it will just be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is asking you to step up into surrender and control. Like, you've gotten through to this point, like they can too. They have guides and ancestors and angels and a highest self guiding them too. They're people too. They have their own agenda for life and their soul's plan and all that. And it's just time for you to surrender the control that you thought you had over the situation and the dynamics and how you were relating. The group is going to change or fall apart, or you will just Some people may think they invested a lot in the relationship with you, and they might get angry and mad. And it's going to have to be okay. You're going to have to surrender the control. You're going to have to be willing to be not liked in order to save yourself from this. Really, that's what it comes down to. It's like, you could stay in it even though you know it's not healthy for you, just to make sure that person's not mad at you. But then you'll always be in it. Why? Just to avoid them getting mad at you? What if you grow, learn, and inspire them to do it for themselves too? Or what if you grow, learn, and line up with friends that actually don't treat you that way, that respect you when you have to grow or learn, when you need space, when you decide that something's not working for you anymore? Imagine people who respect you. I think you are the type of person who would respect that for others. Okay. Yeah, so this is just bringing you up to a higher timeline where you get to live a more accurate reflection of who you are. Right now, the reflections that you have are only reflecting back to you the patterns of limitation that you have. So as you clear up these patterns of limitation, and your view is clearer, you will then start to see reflections of people who match you on a level of integrity, honesty, respect, confidence, gratitude, non-attachment, and where you have relationships with people that you find very nourishing. The relationships themselves are nourishing. Not the people, the relationship, because you're part of that equation, and you both bring something to the relationship, which is a nourishing place, which says, oh, look at us. We have knowledge to share, wisdom to share, we have inspiration to share. We're growing, we're learning, we're figuring things out. We're taking pauses. We're saying, oh, I could really use your perspective on this because I'm not quite seeing it. Do you have anything to offer? Oh, sure. Let me see what I see. Yeah, actually, I kind of see this. Okay, thanks. Let me think about that. Oh, yeah, based on what you said, I understood that it's this way for me. Oh, I'm glad that helped. Yeah, great. Oh, actually, I have something if you wouldn't mind giving me a reflection. Sure, I'll take a look. This, and this. Okay. Yes, I see that. I've experienced that too. Here's what I thought. Oh, great. That really opens it up for me. Thank you for sharing that. You know, we're not holding each other down. We're not pulling at each other. We're not completely codependent. We're interdependent. So we're not isolated, and we're not, completely unable to depend on other people in our vicinity. And we are actually lined up with people that are actually trustworthy to depend on when we both agree to do so. Wow. And I just heard this serves as a template for humanity, a template of relationship that we need more examples of in order for it to be like caught onto, from a wider audience. It's like, oh, see how those people are relating? It looks really healthy. It looks like it feels really good. I want to learn that. It's like, oh, let me try that within my relationships. What is it they're doing different? Maybe I could ask them. What do you guys do different that, makes this relationship look so appealing and healthy and smooth and fulfilling for both of you? It's like, oh, this is how we handle this. Oh, cool. Let me try that. And that's a benefit to humanity, that you were just an example of something, but you were an example of it because you came to do it. You came to break out of that way of being that your ancestry was stuck in, They knew you could do it, and you came with a plan and a template for something that you would do instead. I think you had a plan to do it with somebody else too, or maybe a whole group of people. So I think there's like a soul pod or soul family out there that will be a more true reflection for you. So you may have found yourself just meeting them, lining up with them. You may be at the beginning of the journey, still waiting to inquire within yourself what makes you a match to the reflections you're currently getting. Or you may be at the stage where you've met your soul family and you are establishing the relationships, and you're just saying, yeah, this other timeline was well worth it. Well worth the work. Okay. Reflection 3. That is your reading.